This video is going to show you how to estimate irrational or non-perfect square roots using a formula. So the question says estimate the value of the square root of 45. Your first step is to find the two perfect squares that are closest to your irrational square root. In order to do that, you need to know your perfect squares. So 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2, 4. 3 times 3, 9. 4 times 4, 16. 5 times 5, 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. So that right there should show you that between these two, right here, 36 and 49, is 45. So we can write this, step number 1, as the square root of 36 is smaller than the square root of 45, which is smaller than the square root of 49. So for the first step, all you need to do is just to find the two perfect squares that are closest to your irrational square root. And a perfect square is the result of multiplying an integer by itself. So 36 is the closest one below it, and 49 is the closest one above it. So now that we have that first step done, let's go ahead and check out step number 2. So step number 1, we identified our square roots, perfect squares that are around this perfect square root. Step number 2 is just to identify your A, B, and C. So your A, B, and C is clearly marked if you look at this formula right here. So this should be your A, this should be your B, and this should be your C. So for number 2, A is equal to 36, B is equal to 45, and C is equal to 49. So that's your second step. Your third step, now that we have found our perfect squares around our irrational root, and we've identified our A, B, and C, is to plug our A, B, and C into this formula right here. So you're going to need to know this formula in order to complete this. So the square root of B is 45 is equal to the square root of A is 36 plus B, which is 45, minus A, which is 36, over C, which is 49, minus A, which is 36. So basically, what you need to do is anytime you see an A in your formula or a B in your formula, you plug in your B. And if you find an A in your formula, you plug in your A. And here's another B right there. And you find a C in your formula, you plug in your C. So you're just putting those numbers in for the letters that they represent in the formula. Okay, so now we found our perfect square roots, and the irrational root that's in between them. We found our a, b, and c, and we've plugged everything into our formula. So our next step is to simplify our equation. So to do that, we first simplify our perfect square and do the subtraction. So right now we know that this is a perfect square. So you need to figure out what is your perfect square. So step 4, we don't know the square root of 45. That's what we're trying to figure out. But we do know that the square root of 36 is 6, because 6 times 6 equals 36. Plus, and you want to do this subtraction, so you want to subtract 45 minus 36. 45 minus 36. You're going to have to regroup here, so this is going to turn into a 3. 15 minus 6 is 9. And 3 minus 3 is 0. So we have 9 on top. And then for the bottom, we have 49 minus 36. So 49 minus 36 is 9 minus 6 is 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. 13. So we have simplified our equation as much as we can so far. Okay, so we just simplified our equation by simplifying the square root of 36 to 6 and simplifying our subtraction to 9 over 13. So your next step is to convert your fraction into a decimal by dividing. So we're going to divide 9 by 13. I'm going to go ahead and open up a little box so I can have some room to work here. Alright, so I have 9 divided by 13. I know that 13 goes into 9 0 times, so I'm going to go ahead and have to put a decimal and then a couple zeros. I don't know how far I'm going to have to go, so I'm just going to put a couple zeros. 13 goes into 90 6 times. So 13 times 6 is 78. And then you subtract. Here you're going to have to borrow. So this is 8. This is 10. So 10 minus 8 is 2. 8 minus 7 is 1. So that's 12. And then you bring down your 0, and that's 120. Now you have to see how many times 13 goes into 120. 13 goes into 129 times. And 13 times 9 is 117. So you do some more subtraction. So I can't subtract 7 from 0, so I need to borrow again. So that's a 1, that's a 10. So 10 minus 7 is 3. 1 minus 1 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. So my next step is just to bring down this 0, and I check and see how many times 13 goes into 30. 13 goes into 32 times. And 13 times 2 is 26. Subtract. I gotta borrow from here. 10 minus 6 is 4. 2 minus 2 is 0. So I could keep going, but most of my questions are only going to ask me to get it to the nearest 10th or 100th. So if I'm looking and I want to round this to the nearest 100th, I have to look at this number right here. And if this number is a 5 or higher, it's going to round this 9 up. If I'm rounding to the nearest 10th, I need to look, which is this one right here, I need to look at the 9. And if the 9 is a 5 or higher, then it rounds this one up. So if I am rounding to the nearest 10th, I have 0. This 9 right here is a 5 or higher, so it's going to change this 6 to a 7. If I am rounding to the, and that's to the nearest 10th. If I'm rounding to the nearest 100th, Then I look at this 2 right here, and I see, is this 2 a 5 or higher? No, it's not, so this 9 is going to stay the same. So the nearest hundredth is 0.69. Okay, so we just did our division and we found out that 9 divided by 13 is 0.69. So I'm going to go ahead and round to the nearest hundredth here, which we've already done. So my last step is just to add. So we still have this 6 plus 9 over 13, but we know that 9 over 13 is equal to 0.69. So at this point, really all you have to do is 6 plus 0.69, which is 6.69. And that's your answer. That is an estimation of the square root of 45. Now this will work, this method will work every time, so make sure that you have your instructions here on the left-hand side. Make sure that you have these notes, and then also make sure that you do a couple of examples, and you have plenty of examples in your online assignment. So it's just really important that you have all of these notes right here. Lightsaber. I hope this helps you. I know that a lot of students have been struggling, so hopefully this will help you complete your homework and get you prepared for the quiz on Friday.